Hey there, Bourbon Real Talk. As you can see, I have a very special guest for today's episode, Mash and Drum crossover with Jason. You want to hear about it? And stick around. So, the one, the only, Jason.
The one, the only. I should be saying that to you.
No, you were in the game before me, man.
Oh, yeah, man.
And one of my inspirations. So I
know, but we've talked. You're kind of a history buff like I am, so
yeah.
I think that's kind of made the connection, right?
Yeah. I've always admired your channel, loved your content, and most of the whiskey tubers, we do get to know each other eventually. We cross paths. We do projects together, and I was coming to Ohio. Actually, you know what it was? I had asked you to participate in my oxidation study.
Yes.
And I needed an address to send samples to, and I saw you lived in Ohio, and I thought, oh crap, I'm actually supposed to go to Ohio soon for my Patreon group.
Yeah.
And so I reached out and I said, hey, when I'm in town, what if we did a crossover episode?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I was like, let's do it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about Jason's history. We're going to look at some of the special bottles that are in his bunker. It's going to be a little bit like my Dwayne Pour bunker raid video and all that stuff. So there's going to be some interesting behind-the-scenes things that you've probably always wondered about Jason, but he doesn't talk about on his podcast. So stick around for that type of thing. So first off, everybody always wants to know what we're drinking.
Yeah.
So tell us what we have.
This is one of our kind of our special happy accident barrel picks. As you know, that happens. This is a rare character single barrel rye, barrel proof rye. It was initially, when we first picked it, it was going to be about 5 years and change. And something happened along the way. It stayed in the barrel. And then by the time we got it, it was 7 years and 2 months. But this is sourced from Bardstown Bourbon Company. It's their 95.5 rye mash bill. And it is that extra time in the barrel. I know he likes rye, so it just did wonders. I'm like, he's got to try this. So I'm glad you like it.
Behind the scenes, a lot of people think that I'm a big rye guy because I release a lot of rye through the Prideful Goat.
Yeah.
But the truth is, my wife is bigger into rye than I am. I release a lot of rye from the Prideful Goat because those were the only barrels that we could buy at a price that we could release that we would be proud of. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So. But yeah, we've got some more projects coming in there, and they're all rye because it's easier to find rye.
It's easier to find rye,
to find.
No, that makes sense.
Bourbon.
That makes sense.
So yeah, this particular whiskey is one that I was exposed to through Rosewood. A buddy of mine started a company called Rosewood, and he got some 95.5 rye from there. And I find that it has a really nice sweet tea component on it that I love. And
so it's a combination of like sweet tea, black tea spice, citrus. I give it like kind of like a little bit of a like an orange blossom honey type note.
Yeah.
But the finish just like destroys. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love the finish.
It's
finish is the best part.
Yeah. And so, how long ago did you start your channel?
August of 2018, I released my first video. Yep.
It was May of 2019.
Okay.
So I was a little behind you. How many subscribers do you have now?
87,000?
87, 88, something like that.
87. My goal is to hit 100 this year.
Yeah.
So I have some content in mind to hopefully help me get there, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. And so what made you want to do this?
It kind of stemmed from me moving to Ohio from New York. I was born and raised in New York. I lived in Queens for a long time before I moved here. And basically in the midst of that move was at the same time when I was kind of getting into whiskey. In New York, I was drinking it with my friends. And even in college, I was drinking Wild Turkey 101.
Sure.
So it was like, I want to kind of get more into this. And the more I got into it, the more I wanted to kind of take a deep dive into the history of it. So when I moved to Ohio, I didn't really know anybody. I had no friends here yet. So the only friends I had were the people who were my coworkers, and I wasn't drinking whiskey with them. So I just basically found this entire community on YouTube, kind of just immersed myself in it. And then I saw that a lot of these channels were doing reviews, but I wanted to know more. I wanted to know the history. I wanted who's making it, the stories behind it, how all the different families in bourbon lore and bourbon history all somehow interconnect one way or another, or they at least cross paths here and there. So I took a deep dive into that, and then once I did that, I have a graphics and video background, so I was like, you know what, I might be able to maybe throw a channel together just to kind of do as a fun thing on the side.
Yeah.
Because I have all this time, I'm trying to get to know people here, and then this little studio became what it is now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Who were some of your early inspirations? Because for me, it was Kenny and Ryan from Bourbon Pursuit, because I discovered podcasts before I discovered YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And then through them, I was exposed to Fred Minnick, bought some of his books, read some of his like really in-depth books and stuff like that.
Yeah, early on I was reading Fred's stuff, and then by the time I got to like discovering the whole YouTube thing, Chad and Sarowitz Bourbon Night, I just loved like the way that he, used light and film bottles, and that kind of captivated me, just like all right, yeah, I would like to do that type of style. And then I found, Daniel and Rex from Whiskey Tribe, and they had so much fun with it, and they were so entertaining to watch, but it was like I wanted to know more about the history, and it's like when Daniel was gonna like get into it, Rex wouldn't let him. So I was like, I want to bring this to my audience. So that's really kind of like they're not talking too much about the history is what kind of made me want to go into a little bit more.
Jump into it.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty similar in that. And I've just recently started doing a lot of reviews. Your channel and others inspired me. One of my buddies, Aaron, actually said, I watch the reviews of all the other channels, and they're all reviewing the same bottles. And when I'm thinking about getting a bottle, I'll search for it, and I watch all the reviews in a row, but your channel doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And so I'm so interested in the history, and I'm so weary of how everybody's palate is different and you taste different things.
For sure.
I've hesitated to do it, but I feel like if I do it in an authentic and honest way, that it does add value, and people learn whether or not they should listen to me or not based on watching things.
I mean, that's the most important thing. If you're a viewer, and there's so many bourbon channels now, I mean, we saw what happened in COVID. During that time, it just everything spiked. Everyone was doing channels, whether it be the pub style channels or whether it be more of the review style channels. You have to find that person and able to line your palate up with. That's really the most important part. But
yeah. And so I ended up just deciding I was going to make the content that I would have wanted to find when I was looking, right?
Yeah.
And eventually,
you've made some really in-depth videos that I even kind of reference back to sometimes, about secondary market, about just finding
RDC
barrels,
getting
pricing,
fired.
all that stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, that stuff I read about all the time. But I don't know. I just never I do talk about it on my live streams. I feel like that's the time where I like to connect with the audience and talk about some of these things happening.
A little nerdier, yeah.
Little nerdier, and because I'm definitely a whiskey nerd. But when it comes to like reviews, I don't know. I just don't do a lot of those. I like to stick to just reviewing really good whiskeys and even some of the bad ones.
Sure. So you started in 2018. How many bottles did you have when you started?
32. There were because I remember when I moved from my apartment to here, I literally had 32 bottles.
Yeah.
So that's what I started off with.
Okay, and how many do you think you have now?
Probably about 1,200.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get bit by the bug.
Yeah.
So
well, it's not even that. It's like, you get lucky, you make connections, people send you stuff, they want you to try it. Like, I'm going to send you a sample, and then like 5 bottles show up.
Right.
It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I got to make room for this. So
are you at I know you are, because I am. Where a box shows up and you're like, what the hell is this? And you open it up and you're like, oh, I totally forgot.
That literally just happened before you got here.
Yeah.
I got a box and open it up and I'm like, what is this? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
I think that the people probably want to see some bunkered videos. So what do you say we move over there and check it out?
You want to see the bunker?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm testing my new whiskey glass that I had designed.
Why?
Well, there's a company out there that's a real Karen, and she threatened to sue us.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah, so we had been producing some traditional tulip shape whiskey glasses.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
We never used the name.
Right. Of course.
But they claimed to own the shape of the glass. Mm-hmm. And since I'm just a little guy, I couldn't fight.
Right.
But do you know what that motivated us to do, Wes?
What?
To go out and design a glass that was actually made for high-proof American spirits. So the company that had the problem with us, their glass was originally designed for low-proof Scotch whiskey.
Oh, okay.
80, 86 proof, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And you know what I had noticed? Every time I would nose a really high-proof, high-quality spirit in the United States out of this glass, all I got was ethanol burn.
Yeah, a little burn there. I felt that.
And so we went out and we designed this glass that's actually designed for those higher proof spirits. And I'm so confident in this glass that if anybody were to go to our website and buy one, I'm offering a money-back guarantee.
Wow.
If you get that glass to your house and you find yourself one of these traditional tulip-shaped glasses and you nose a high-proof spirit side by side and you can't tell the difference, I will gladly give you your money back.
So what you're saying is they can really stick it to the Karen and support the little guy by going to bourbonrealtalk.com and ordering one of these with absolutely no risk. They could get their money back if they don't prefer it nosing it to the other?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if you love small business and you like sticking it to Karens, that's the way to go.
Stick it to Karen. bourbonrealtalk.com.
Cheers. All right, we're here in the actual bunker, and I
don't think anyone's seen this. I think you might be the only person.
Really.
Yeah.
I think I kind of surprised him. If you go back, if you rewind back when I was like, let's move over to the bunker, you could see like a little surprise in his eyes.
You want to see the bunker?
Yeah.
You want to see the bunker? You want to see the bunker?
Anyway, no, this is not set up for normal viewing, but that's what you get on the Bourbon Real Talk channel.
Yeah.
We get the behind the scenes
surprises.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about it, because one of the interesting things when you get deeply involved in this hobby is it's a very small world.
Yeah.
And you start to meet people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those meetings lead to some of these bottles, right?
For sure.
That the bottle has meaning not because it's the best tasting whiskey in the world, but because it's associated with some memory. So are any of your special bottles like that?
Yeah, this one in particular, this Weller Full Proof, which, Weller Full Proof is a very solid bourbon, nothing, that blows me away. But this one in particular was a collaboration with a bunch of different YouTubers and whiskey channels. It was a blend that was put forth by Matt, ADHD Whiskey, you probably know him. And we all went around.
Cheers to you, Matt.
Cheers to you, Matty. And we all went around and kind of tasted the blend, and then whatever we took out, we had to put something back in if we felt like we could improve it. Ultimately ended up in the hands of Dixon Deadman. We raised some money for that finished blend at the end, and Dixon also threw in some of his own bottles, and I was like, okay, Weller Full Proof signed by Dixon Deadman from his Beaumont Inn restaurant. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely getting in on that. So this is a bottle that's pretty special just because that whole experience. It was really when a lot of us were kind of getting to know each other.
Sure.
And I think this just kind of was like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So do you get asked to be on not a lot, but do you get asked to be on other people's channels pretty regularly?
Pretty regularly, but not as much as I think it happened like it used to, because
right.
I feel like everyone has kind of really grown exponentially,
yeah,
and kind of has found their highway. But
I get asked by small channels,
yeah,
but I gotta tell them, I'm like,
yeah,
people sometimes don't watch my show. They're not gonna watch me on your show, right? Like you like my show, so you think that this is gonna be like a big bump, and you're gonna get a bunch of exposure.
I love having smaller channels on, or even collaborating with the big channels. It doesn't happen as often as the smaller channels coming on.
Yeah,
because I think people have kind of found their audience and they kind of hear what they want to hear, and it's great. I love how much it's grown.
So what are some of the other special bottles?
So I have this Al Young Four Roses 50th anniversary. This is a bottle I was chasing down for a very long time. It got really high on secondary, and then it started creeping down, and I'm like, I better just jump on it. So I had a good buddy of mine kind of procure that one for me, and I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. I was like, the time has come, so I grabbed that one. This bottle, probably, how people say, all right, if you can be stuck on an island with one bourbon
forever,
for the rest of your life, this would probably be it.
Okay.
This is
you're a cheesy gold foil guy.
Cheesy gold foil, Wild Turkey, 1989, 12 year. This is, See how dark that is?
Oh, good Lord.
Got about a half a bottle of it left. This has everything I want in a whiskey. It's got spice. It's got butterscotch. It's absolutely incredible. This is the bottle.
Yeah, so that the Al Young. Every time I see a bottle of Al Young, I think about me and my buddy flew to Atlanta.
Yeah. We
camped outside a liquor store that was a first come first serve. And it was this real stressful environment because you had to pick your bottle. And there's a line of people behind you that they waited in the rain with you. They're like, pick your bottle. I want to get what I get. Yeah. And so I was like panicked. And I walked up there and there was an Al Young 50th. And there was a Van Winkle Lot B. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I grabbed the Lot B and I passed on the Al Young. And then I got home and I was like, oh, my God, what did you just do?
Yeah, what did you just
do?
I would have judged you for that.
Yeah, I'm judging myself right now. And Cheesy Goldfoil, I've heard that before. The other one that I've heard from like real high level whiskey nerds is Weller Gold Vein.
Yeah, the Weller Gold Vein. I've tried that before, and I've tried to get a bottle of that, but prices are just still stupid for those.
Yeah, it's like thousands.
But that's definitely on the list of like a kind of a grail bottle to get eventually. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, for me, my holy grail is Linnell's Red Hook Rye.
Dude, that's like...
I know, it's stupid.
You better rob a museum, dude.
No, but like, I've met people, so
to try it or to own it?
I don't know. Like, Prideful Goat would have to like blow up for me to own it and try it. No, I just want to try it.
It's a goal, though.
Yeah, but for, it's like, I've tried Michter 25 and 20 in Celebration and Double Eagle Very Rare and, all of that type of stuff. Now, it's like, I gotta... I've had a 1938 Weller. I've had, now it's like, I got to pick something that's insane if it's going to be
there comes to a point where it's like, okay, I've had that. So,
yeah. So what else do we got? What's this Anderson?
This is the Anderson Club, 15 years. This is produced in the, apparently the finest distillery in the company. This is basically pre-Fire Heaven Hill.
Oh, okay.
I got on a pre-Fire Heaven Hill kick, and I was buying up everything I could, and I absolutely loved it. But this Anderson Club 15, I had a bunch of them. This is the last one I have, because I like to drink and share. So, but that's the last one I have.
Charcoal filtered.
Yeah, charcoal filtered.
Look at
that.
By the way. So many people want to argue that the Lincoln County process makes it illegal to call Jack Daniel's bourbon.
Yeah, dude.
Here we are.
Don't even get me started.
I know. I
did an entire video on it. I compared every single attribute of both whiskeys. I'm like, the reason why it's Jack Daniel's is Tennessee whiskey. It's because it's marketing. That's really all it is. I've had it. I've had Chris Fletcher on the channel. And he said we could flip a switch and call ourselves bourbon tomorrow if we wanted to.
I have a picture of a Jack Daniel's bottle that says it's bourbon.
It says it's bourbon.
And I have a video of Lexi saying that it's bourbon.
People love to argue the point. It's fine. You guys argue.
But here's the Kentucky bourbon that is charcoal filtered. So it does happen.
These are just absolutely delicious whiskeys.
So my pre-Fire Heaven Hill story is I have a buddy and he was in
beautiful
this
bottle.
Oh, that is, and I really love this like vintage looking packaging. This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it even looks like a Jack Daniel's bottle, kind of.
Kind of does. like the way the new Bonded ones look now.
Yeah.
Kind of very similar to that.
And so I had a buddy, and he was into some of the Dusties, and I went over his house, and he had a Dusty Screw Top pre-Fire Heaven Hill, and it was one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. I just sat there and smelled it forever. Like it wasn't even,
Yeah, here's an old 12-year Ezra Brooks too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's starting to get a little dust on it.
Yeah,
I see that.
Hence the Dusty.
All right, so why is this Elijah Craig pirate bottle up here?
Because this particular bottle sent me on a 2-year voyage to find every single one that I could.
Okay.
And I went on a little nuts trying to find these because once I tasted these. Once you taste this Elijah, this is the old funky Heaven Hill Elijah Craig barrel proof. It's got some barrel char to it. It's got kind of a funkiness to it. There's nothing like this anymore. I don't care. You could give me Stag, Pappy, whatever. Keep it. I'd rather have this right here. Yeah. This is amazing stuff.
So one time there was a guy that I knew local, and he had been collecting these for years.
Yeah. And
he saw me do a live video in a local group, opening up a couple of the new bottles when they first came out. and he said, "Hey, bring all your new bottles over to my house."
Yeah.
And I think he had every single one of these except for 2, and we opened them all up. But we had this lineup I had to take like nuts. A panoramic to get them all.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I got some more back there. Yeah, I got close. But then again, it's more about opening them up and sharing them. Because when people say they've never had this before, a bottle like this will just change your life.
Sure. Yeah.
This pot, just because I'm a huge Wild Turkey fan, Austin Nichols Wild Turkey. This is the bottle or one of them that kind of got me on the whole Dusty. Like I got to find every Dusty I can.
Right.
So and just plus being an Austin Nichols Wild Turkey, I have a really big connection with that distillery. I just love the history of it. I love the flavors, love the family. So I kind of grabbed this bottle real quick. Finally, after like missing Jimmy Russell like 15 times when I went to the distillery, I finally walked in and he's sitting at a barrel eating barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jimmy Russell. He's like, that's me. Yeah. And they kind of ran out of Wild Turkey 101 bottles, but I grabbed this little one and he signed it for me, and I will forever cherish this little 375.
Now this one's a little bit different. What's going on with this bottle?
So I have my own pick club just like you, Master Journey Whiskey Club. I partner up with Scott over my Bourbon Journey. We have this Master Journey Whiskey Club, and we're always out looking for some really fun stuff. Barrel King is a brand that we discovered kind of early last year, and they have done such amazing stuff for the community. And they kind of had this crazy idea, and we were like, what if we went down there, picked some barrels, we brought in a bunch of patrons, and kind of they got to do their own blend of barrels while using some MGP. So basically what we did was, and I totally give all credit to my girlfriend because she came up with the idea. She was like, there's too many people. You're going to have like 25 blends to try to make. So it's our idea to split it up into 3 different teams. Things got competitive real fast.
Yes.
And everybody had to take the same 4 barrels and come up with what they think would be the perfect blend. And it ended up being our community blend. We called FYPB. You can kind of do the math on that. And we have even the folks that didn't get chosen, all their names are here on the sticker that helped the blending team. And it was just such an amazing event. It was a camaraderie. It was everybody just kind of coming together. We had the best time. So that bottle is very special to me.
It kind of represents what this is all about.
Exactly. I think that's the perfect way to say it. It basically represents what we wanted the club to ultimately become. And I think we're going to, do another one.
Yeah. So we did something similar to that. I actually am involved with another brand that's kind of a house brand for the whiskey club that we started.
Yeah.
Last year, I had the idea, like, let's do a crossover. Let's take the Patreon group out there. And we were doing some barrel finishing projects. Yep. And so we gave them 4 different finished barrels and put teams together and said, blend the best cigar bourbon that you can.
Yeah.
And then every team had to agree on their team's blend. And then they submitted them all blind, and we had a tasting panel.
Yeah, that's basically what happened with that. And we had myself and Jared from Barrel King. He jumped in and he was tasting with us, and he's like, "That's the winner right there." And that's what ended up.
You know what's so funny?
happening.
Same thing happened. We sit down and taste, and it took like 2 seconds.
Take
like,
2 seconds.
Boom, boom, boom. That's the one.
Like that's the one.
And then the team, like, they were gloating.
And then he actually took that. He took the barrel. He's like, "Man, if we just lifted up a little bit of this," so he actually threw it in a X-Stag barrel.
Okay.
And then he threw it in a Willet barrel for like a day.
Just to elevate
and just to give it a little bit like that, just to elevate the fruit characteristic of it, and man, it came out awesome.
That's awesome. And then this one looks like it's signed.
So this is signed by Mark and Sherry Carter. My first ever experience, one of my first experiences going to Old Carter. They were just so. If you've ever met them, they are just the nicest people in the world, and they signed that bottle. I took my mom there. They gave my mom like one of the the ink block print that she carved, the wood print that she carved of that horse that ended up being on the label. She actually gave a print to my mom. They were just like the best. So I don't know, that bottle. It's also batch 1 of their American whiskey, which I still think is their best one that they've ever created. That thing is ridiculously good. So I nursed that bottle. And then this one I just have here because this is the first barrel pick we ever did.
So this is a Rye 3?
It's a Rye 3. It's a blend that we did, and it was the first barrel pick that Master Journey ever did. And now we're about 160 barrel picks deep.
Oh, wow!
So it really. But this is the bottle that kind of took off.
That started it off.
Yeah, it started it all.
I have the first single barrel that we ever released, or our Patreon group ever released. I've done hundreds of barrel picks, but in terms of like for my community.
Yeah.
I've got one that was signed by everybody that worked at the distillery.
That's
and
awesome.
I have it set in a section where like you can't touch these bottles. Like these
Yeah,
are
that's
just
actually a good idea. I might do that. I might actually bring that bottle to the next event and just have people start signing it everywhere.
Yeah, because really that community is what it's all about.
Yeah.
So you brought up you brought something interesting up. In this journey, you get to meet a lot of amazing people from the industry. What's a memory that sticks out that is, aside from the Carters that you just talked about, a memory that sticks out where somebody just really blew you away and you walked away from it going, it's amazing that whiskey could bring this into my life?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'll have to think a minute on that. There's been so many moments that I could kind of think back to. The first time I ever walked into a Wild Turkey Rick House, because like I mentioned before, having that connection with that brand, and just the first time I walked in there, and Bruce is in there with the thieves, like, ready to drink some bourbon? I was like, okay, and that was pretty special. First time, I think my first time with a master distiller will always stick out. Elizabeth McCall over at Woodford Reserve. I got to do kind of my first interview ever with her for the channel, and she was just so kind and sat down with me and really taught me. Not even off camera, even when it was over, she spent the time to kind of talk through, because she is, she's kind of like the master of sensory notes.
Right.
She could pick up, she said she picks up like 200 something flavors in a bottle of Woodford.
Right.
So I'm like, how do you even do that? She's like, well, do this, do this. She taught me so much about just nosing and tasting a whiskey.
Yeah.
That completely just changed my whole theory on like how I did it.
Right.
And she really, like, I learned from one of the best. So I always thank her for that. Meeting Jackie Zykin, I'll never forget. Oh, Campbell Brown from Brown Foreman.
Yeah.
On the channel. I mean, he's literally in some apartment building pouring his brother's birthday bourbon, like, for the first time. He's like, I'm just going to drink this. We're going to hang out. That was really cool. But I got to say, like, really, it's just been the community and the different people that I've met along the way. It's not so much about the people in the industry that really make the effect on me. It's the people that watch, and just to your point when you were talking about how much you've raised money for specific causes, nonprofit causes. Same thing across YouTube. From my end, I mean, we raised so much money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and just there's like this call to action that automatically happens with the whiskey community that I think is the best part of it. Yeah. Like, talking about the whiskey is good, breaking it down, trying to hump bottles, that's always going to be there. That's fun. But when you kind of challenge the group, it's like, we have to raise money, we have to do this. I'm always, I shouldn't be amazed at this point.
Right.
But I'm always amazed at just how much, like, it's like a call to arms, and they're ready to help and to raise money and to help those in need. And I think that those are the moments that always keep me going.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to the close of our show. I want to tell you about our philosophy, and we are all about bringing people together around spirits, and that's because I lost a loved one to suicide. And in the aftermath of my brother's death, I was looking for ways to create community and bring people together, because my brother had lost a lot of those social connections that was keeping him tethered to this world. And I saw the communal nature of whiskey, and I thought to myself, maybe if I can get you connected to whiskey, the whiskey will do the rest of the job and get you connected to others. And so we started this channel. But if you're going to have connection, you do have to have communication, and you have to have a forum. A lot of the forums out there are filled with negativity and hate. And I realized after seeing that I needed to create a forum that didn't have all of that negativity and that troll behavior. And we started Bourbon Real Talk community, and it's been a success in that regard. But those hateful people online also taught me another valuable lesson. And that is that if somebody can hate you online, there's nothing that keeps me from loving you online. And that's why I end every episode the same way, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.